Amen. There are lessons to be learned tonight. I have learned lessons from fellers across this country. Big fellers, short fellers, wide fellers, skinny fellers, and some of those fellers, I'm waiting for my slide to move, were women. Some of those fellers were women, so just in case you're confused, when I say feller, I don't mean a fellow from the South. I mean a feller, somebody that fells trees. And in the South, that's what we called them, fellers. We called them fellers. Out here in the West, they call them fallers, but the right term is fellers. And I learned long ago a very important lesson that I want to share with you tonight, and I learned it from a feller. And as a matter of fact, I worked a summer in the woods. I was a feller for a crew. We had one skidder and one to load, but fellers, we had two. Now there was me, and I was a strong, young, eager buck. Man, I was chomping at the bit. And there was Snuffy. He was older and short on brawn, but he made up for it in his wit. Now keep 'em running was the charge as the boss handed us our saws, and my mind turned in an instant to the paycheck I would draw, because, man, I could keep that saw running round the clock if need. And I was sure old Snuffy'd be impressed with my forcefulness and my speed. So day after day, I ran my saw at a fever pitch. Man, as hard as I was working, why, surely I'd get rich. But old Snuffy, on the other hand, he just wasn't in the race. If he was expecting to cash in, you wouldn't tell it from his pace. Well, my first paycheck was pretty good, though not quite all I expected. I was pretty sure I'd make serious cash from the techniques I'd perfected. And imagine my surprise when I was next paid for production. Old Snuffy got a handsome raise. I received a slight reduction. Well, now, whoa, how can this be? I asked the boss. I've got to see the books. Could a fella old enough to be my dad be that much stronger than he looks? Well, sure enough, in black and white, the numbers, they did not lie. That old timer I had pity on, he cut twice as much as I. So week after week, I ran my saw just as the boss required. 12 hours a day, without a break, till I was near expired. And every day at lunch, I'd just have to work right through. But old Snuffy enjoyed his meal. Frustration was my noonday fare, and it was losing its appeal. All right? So I laid awake late in the night as the summer neared its end, and I thought a lot about old Snuffy. And I realized what a mentor he might have been. And as I laid there and I thought about him and I tossed from side to side, it became painfully clear to me that all that money I was hoping to make, I'd squandered it on my pride. So the next day, I found old Snuffy, and he was resting beneath a tree. And I eased up slow behind him because his secret I was hoping to see. Well, he heard the leaves underneath my feet, and he turned, and with a smile, he just kept sharpening each sawtooth with smooth strokes from his file. Well, as you can tell, I no longer run a saw. But old Snuffy's wisdom still serves me today, and I will never forget that gentleman for the words he chose that day when he said to me, "Son, now the best tuned saw, though run non-stop, will always cut less than it could. Unless your blade is sharp each day, because it's your edge that cuts the wood." Snuffy taught me that lesson years before Stephen Covey came out with his book about the 7 habits of highly effective people. I wish Snuffy would have written a book, but Snuffy taught me that, and Stephen Covey then later came out with his book about, and it starts out with what? Begin with the end in mind. First things first. Seek first to understand and then to be understood. And eventually he gets to number 7. Who knows what number 7 is of Stephen Covey's habits of highly effective people? Sharpen that saw. Man, I'm telling you, there are too many people, myself sometime included, that are working dawn to dusk at a fever pitch, just busting it day in, day out, trying to work so hard and squeeze so much out of every day, and we are forgetting to stop and sharpen our saw. I am so impressed by so many of the speakers I have heard here tonight. There's some saw sharpeners you heard here tonight. And I would encourage you to think about in your life, whether it's your spiritual life, your physical life, your intellectual life, whatever it is that you're pursuing, you are unique in that pursuit, and you'll only make it there if you stop long enough occasionally to sharpen your saw. So blessings to you all. I finished way early. I got one more slide coming up. Sometimes people call me Forrest or Phil. I hope you have a great evening. Thanks.